What happens when your ex-girlfriend, the one who crushed your dreams and called you boring, invites you to watch her get engaged to someone else? Most people would decline, but sometimes showing up is the best decision you'll ever make. Because while Ashley was busy planning her perfect engagement party, I was quietly building something that would make her regret every cruel word she ever said to me. Jake Miller adjusted his tie in the rearview mirror of his 2018 Honda Civic, the same car Ashley used to complain about during their 3-year relationship. At 36, he looked exactly the same as he had when she left him. Average height, brown hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and the kind of face that blended into crowds. Nothing flashy, nothing remarkable, just reliable. The engagement party was being held at the Riverside Country Club, the kind of place Ashley had always dreamed of belonging to but could never afford when they were together. Jake had received the invitation through their mutual friend Sarah, who insisted he should come. "It's been 3 years, Jake," Sarah had said over coffee. "You both deserve closure. Besides, Ashley specifically said you should be invited. She wants to show there are no hard feelings." No hard feelings. Jake almost laughed, remembering those words as he walked up the pristine stone steps of the country club. If only Ashley knew what no hard feelings really looked like. The main ballroom was decorated in Ashley's signature style, all white and gold, elegant, but trying just a little too hard to impress. Jake recognized most of the faces from their shared social circle, people who had quietly chosen sides after the breakup. Most had chosen Ashley. He grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and found a spot near the back, content to observe. Ashley looked stunning, of course. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her engagement ring catching the light as she gestured animatedly to a group of admiring friends. Her fiancé, Brad Morrison, stood beside her with the confident smile of a man who owned 3 successful real estate offices across Denver. Jake had done his research on Brad. It was a habit he'd developed in his line of work. Always know who you're dealing with. On paper, Brad looked impressive. In reality, his business was hemorrhaging money, propped up by increasingly desperate loans in a commercial real estate market that was about to collapse. "Ashley! Jake Miller! Oh my God, I can't believe you actually came!" Ashley's voice cut through the ambient conversation like a blade. She was approaching with Brad in tow, her smile bright, but her eyes calculating. Jake had seen that look before. It was the same one she wore when she was about to say something designed to hurt. "Jake, congratulations," Jake said simply, extending his hand to Brad. "You're a lucky man." Brad's handshake was firm, his smile genuine. "Thanks, man. Ashley's told me a lot about you. Says you're, what was it, honey?" "An accountant." "Close enough," Jake replied. He was technically a forensic accountant, but that distinction had never impressed Ashley. Ashley laughed, the sound sharp and performative. Jake's always been so modest about his little job. Still working at that same firm, right? Still living in that cute little apartment downtown? The conversation felt rehearsed, like Ashley had been planning this moment for months. Around them, their mutual friends shifted uncomfortably, sensing the undercurrent of cruelty in her tone. "Actually, I moved. Got a place in Cherry Hills Village last year." Ashley's eyebrows raised slightly. Cherry Hills Village was Denver's most exclusive neighborhood, where houses started at $2 million. "Oh, rental?" "No, I bought it." For just a moment, Ashley's composure slipped, but she recovered quickly, her laugh even brighter than before. "Well, good for you. I always said you were responsible with money. Probably saved every penny, right? That's so you." The word "you" carried the weight of every criticism she ever leveled at him. Too careful, too boring, too small in his ambitions. Jake had heard it all during their relationship, especially toward the end when she'd grown tired of their quiet dinners and modest vacations. "Something like that," Jake said. Brad was called away by his business partner, leaving Jake alone with Ashley for the first time in 3 years. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. "You know, Jake, I've thought about you sometimes. About us." She paused, studying his face for a reaction. "I hope you understand why I had to end things. We wanted different things." Jake remembered the night she'd left. She'd packed her bags while he was at work, leaving only a note that said she needed someone who matched her ambitions. He'd come home to an empty apartment, and the devastating silence of a life suddenly cut in half. "I understand perfectly," Jake said. "You wanted someone who could give you all this." He gestured around the opulent ballroom. Ashley smiled, mistaking his calm for acceptance. "Exactly. Brad gets it. He's building something real, something impressive. He's going to own half of Denver's commercial real estate market within 5 years." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "That's ambitious. How's the current market treating him?" "Fantastic," Ashley said quickly. "We're actually expanding again next month. Brad says the opportunities have never been better." Jake almost felt sorry for her. She clearly had no idea that Brad's expansion was being funded by increasingly risky leverage loans, or that 3 of his major tenants had already given notice. The commercial real estate market in Denver was about to experience a significant correction, and Brad's highly leveraged position was going to make him one of the first casualties. But Jake said none of this. Instead, he simply nodded and said, "That sounds exciting." The evening continued with Ashley making sure to include Jake in conversations where she could showcase her new life. She talked about their upcoming honeymoon to Italy, the house they were building in Aspen, Brad's expansion plans. Each revelation was delivered with the subtle cruelty of someone who wanted to make sure Jake understood exactly what he'd lost. Jake played his part perfectly, the quiet ex-boyfriend who'd stayed exactly the same, while she'd moved on to bigger and better things. He asked polite questions, offered congratulations at appropriate moments, and gave no indication that anything had changed about his circumstances. As the evening wound down, Ashley cornered him one final time near the coat check. "I'm glad you came tonight, Jake. I really am. I think it's important that you see how things worked out, that you understand I made the right choice." She paused. Her expression shifted to something that might have been pity. "I heard you're still single. That's okay, you know. Not everyone is meant for all this. You'll find someone who appreciates your qualities, someone who doesn't need excitement or adventure, someone satisfied with simple." The word simple hung in the air between them like a verdict. This was Ashley's final gift to him, the confirmation that she still saw him exactly as she had 3 years ago. Boring, predictable, small. "You're right," Jake said quietly. "I probably will." Ashley smiled, satisfied with his apparent acceptance of his limitations. "I'm glad you understand. Take care of yourself, Jake." She walked away with the confident stride of someone who believed she'd won a competition Jake hadn't even known they were having. Jake sat in his car for a long moment after leaving the party, not because he was emotional, but because he was calculating. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number for Marcus Webb, his investment banker. Marcus answered on the second ring, despite the late hour. "Jake, everything okay? I need you to move on that Morrison Properties acquisition we discussed. Full cash offer, no contingencies." There was a pause. "You sure about this? That's a significant investment, and the market indicators aren't great for commercial real estate right now." "That's exactly why I'm sure. How quickly can you make it happen?" "If you're serious about the full asking price, I can have contracts drawn up by Monday. They're motivated to sell. Been on the market for 6 months with no serious offers." Jake smiled for the first time all evening. "Perfect. And Marcus, make sure the acquisition goes through Miller Capital Holdings. I want it very clear who's buying." The next morning, Jake's phone started ringing at 8:47 a.m. The caller ID showed Sarah's number. "Jake, what the hell did you do?" Sarah's voice was breathless with shock. "Good morning to you too, Sarah. What are you talking about?" "Brad Morrison, Ashley's fiancé. Someone just bought his entire company overnight. Cash offer way above asking price. Ashley's freaking out because now Brad's out of business, and she's saying some guy named Miller bought everything." Jake poured himself a cup of coffee, savoring the moment. Miller's a pretty common name. Jake? Sarah's voice was suspicious now. This isn't coincidence, is it? Probably not. But then again, I'm just a boring accountant with a little apartment downtown, right? What could I possibly have to do with a multi-million-dollar acquisition? The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. How long? Sarah finally asked. How long what? How long have you been not what you appeared to be? Jake thought about the sleepless nights after Ashley left, when he channeled his heartbreak into building something she could never have imagined. The Fintech startup that had grown from his spare room into a company that revolutionized small business lending. The quiet acquisitions, the strategic investments, and the net worth that had grown to just over $12 million while he deliberately maintained the same modest lifestyle that Ashley had found so disappointing. About 3 years, he said finally. Funny how motivating a broken heart can be. 6 months later, Jake received a wedding invitation. Not from Ashley. That engagement had quietly dissolved when Brad's financial situation became clear, but from Sarah, who was marrying her longtime boyfriend. At the bottom, she'd written a personal note. Please come, and please no more surprise business acquisitions during the reception. Jake laughed and RSVP'd yes. After all, he had nothing to hide anymore. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't destroying someone's life. It's building something so impressive that they destroyed their own life trying to figure out how they missed it. Ashley had wanted someone who matched her ambitions. She just never realized she'd already found him. Have you ever had someone underestimate you, only to later regret their assumptions? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hidden Hearth for more stories about hidden success, quiet revenge, and the satisfaction of proving doubters wrong.